All right, moving on to the second story that we're tracking tonight on Brass Tacks. Rahul Gandhi has once again ignited the debate around merit, putting his weight behind the caste census and the demand of the caste census, which has been the case for the India Alliance since the 2024 elections. Rahul Gandhi has claimed that the caste census is the only way, in his view, to end inequalities in the country, as it will reveal the truth about what is happening in India with regard to control over systems, including education, healthcare, politics, and bureaucracy. He has blamed the upper castes for killing merit, but Rahul Gandhi says the concept of merit itself is unfair and it is stacked up against dalits and tribals in this country. But the question is this remark even grounded in fact? Can a caste census be the solution to all of India's problems? And at the end of the day, the bottom line is, can you completely disregard merit and not choose people, whether it's for higher education or for government jobs, basis merit at all? But first, let's listen into what Rahul Gandhi had to say.
There is a completely flawed concept of merit where I confuse my social position with my capability. Because for anybody to say that our education system or our bureaucratic entry systems are fair to dalits and OBCs and tribals, I mean, that's just a complete fallacy, because they're culturally not connected to these communities at all. So the entire narrative is an upper caste narrative. This notion of merit is actually itself an unfair idea.
So Rahul Gandhi has time and again, particularly in the last year and a half or so, been reiterating his demand for a caste census. But this is a complete U-turn from a position that he held some years ago. This is a flip-flop, and it's out there. It's in plain sight for everyone to see. Back in 2009, when the UPA was in power, Rahul Gandhi right now, in 2024, 2025, is claiming that caste census is really the solution to all of India's problems, and those who are against the caste census are the real anti-nationals. In 2009, more than 10 years ago, Rahul Gandhi said that he doesn't believe in the caste system. He doesn't believe that caste is a factor in Indian society or in Indian politics. So this is what Rahul Gandhi had said back in 2009. So it's a complete U-turn from what he had said more than 10 years ago. All right, so you have on the one hand Rahul Gandhi saying the very concept of merit is stacked up against dalits and tribals. On the other side, on the right and on the middle class, they anyway have a complaint about the reservation system, saying how the general category is being shortchanged. They have access to only 50% of the seats in higher education and 50% of government jobs. So both right and left seem to have a problem with the concept of reservations as it exists in India right now. Let me go across to a very special guest who is now joining us, Anand Ranganathan, senior professor from the Jawaharlal Nehru University and a political commentator, now joining us. Professor Ranganathan, so, first let's deal with what Rahul Gandhi says. He says the concept of merit itself is stacked up against dalits and tribals in this country. They can't compete. The entry-level barrier to get a government job or to get a seat in higher education in one of the prestigious universities in this country is stacked up against them. What would you say to that?
Good evening, Zakka, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Let me quote someone. Quote, I dislike any kind of reservation, more particularly in service. I react strongly against anything that leads to inefficiency and second-rate standards. I want my country to be a first-class country in everything. The moment we encourage the second rate, we are lost. If we go in for reservations on a communal and caste basis, we swamp the bright and the able and meritorious people and remain second rate or third rate. The only real way to help a backward group is to give opportunities for good education. Help should be given on economic considerations and not on caste, unquote. Who said this? Jawaharlal Nehru on June 27, 1961. So Congress and Rahul Gandhi need a bit of a history lesson. Look, the Congress, Zakka, has traditionally been unsympathetic towards dalits and the OBCs and the underprivileged. The Constitution mandated a commission to look into the reservations for the OBCs back in 1950. Congress never constituted a commission. It was a non-Congress government that commissioned it, Mandal Commission, and a non-Congress government that implemented it. In fact, Rajiv Gandhi was against the Mandal Commission implementation. He called it, quote, a can of worms. to tell you of how shameless the Congress placates its Muslim vote bank at the cost of the underprivileged. The Congress government has reinstated the 4% blanket reservation quota to Muslims in Karnataka, saying all Muslims can avail of this quota. To say, Zakka, that every Muslim of Karnataka belongs to the backward class and can now also avail of reservations is just bizarre and makes a mockery of the real purpose of why we have reservations in the first place, to benefit the most underprivileged. I talk here of the Rohini Commission that found 97% of the reserved jobs and seats go to only 25% of OBC subcastes, and only 10 OBC communities have taken the 25% of reserved central jobs and institution seats. 37% of communities under OBC category had zero representation in jobs. We also need to put an end to appeasement done by politicians and political parties when it comes to dividing the OBC quota, chief among them Congress. Let me now talk about the hypocrisy relating to policy. Rajiv Gandhi Foundation disallowed SC/ST reservations on the grounds that one cannot get experienced people in underprivileged classes. It is amusing that Rahul Gandhi is now waxing eloquent about caste census when it was his government at the center that conducted the caste census but did not make it public for 3 years. Remember, it was his government at the state in Karnataka that conducted the caste census but did not make it public for 4 years. Remember, it was his government at the center that, despite knowing the OBC percentage in India to be more than 30%, did not make more than 3% OBCs as secretaries. Remember, it was his government in Rajasthan that gave only 10% tickets to women for the recent elections. This while he cries for 33% reservation. Remember, it was his party that did not field a single Muslim candidate in Maharashtra. Remember, it was his party that gave less tickets to women than even the BJP.
Okay.
Then he wants to give them rights. Finally, this is important. As far as reservations are concerned, I have 3 brief points to make. Number one, as was reinforced by none other than the Chief Justice of India and Justice Pardiwala, and also Prakash Ambedkar, the grandson of Dr. Ambedkar, that even Dr. Ambedkar wanted reservations only for a limited period of 10 to 30 years. Why do our politicians not have the guts to implement that? And two, I am for caste survey, because if you're giving reservations, Zakka, to the backward castes and classes, it makes sense to find out how many are they as a percentage of population. And three, as I said, if giving reservations is a moral obligation, and it is, then why are reservations excluded from certain domains and sectors, the prominent among them being the judiciary? Why do the judges suddenly think of merit when it comes to appointing their own, but think of quotas when it comes to appointing doctors, scientists, and other professionals?
So,
is that not hypocrisy?
So you made this point that the Congress, or at least Rahul Gandhi, has made this full U-turn compared to what, Jawaharlal Nehru's position was on reservation, or even Rajiv Gandhi's position was on reservation. But on the other side, on the right, there is this constant gripe that, reservation is stacked up against the middle class. The middle class kids don't get enough opportunities. There's a constant gripe. And that's why, the middle class is having to send their kids abroad to universities abroad. And yet, Mr. Modi's government too is very sensitive about reservation. You remember that 2015 comment from Mohan Bhagwat, which they, really went out of their way to sort of claw back on. The comments that were alleged to have been made by the Home Minister in the 2024 Lok Sabha election, which turned out to be a fake clip, which even today, large parts of the BJP believe was one of the big reasons why they lost seats in Maharashtra and in Uttar Pradesh. So who's listening to that constituency, which is saying that reservation, the way it is right now, is stacked up against the middle class?
Well, the politicians, Zakka, are not, because they're worried about winning elections. In fact, so much so that when the Supreme Court itself mandated that we should have a creamy layer amongst the SC/ST, there was, you remember, huge brouhaha. No politician worth his or her salt is willing to take the risk of at least listening to Dr. Ambedkar. The problem out here is because they know the moment they talk about logic and rationale, the moment they talk about creamy layer that has now benefited from the quotas and the reservations and no longer needs reservations, the moment they will lose this huge chunk of constituency and votes. So no politician is willing to look at logic, and it is now going to the other extreme, where people like Rahul Gandhi are completely discrediting merit at all. So let us do away with examinations. In any case, it was Mani Shankar who said that Rajiv Gandhi failed twice. So I don't think why we need exams.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Anand Ranganathan, for joining us here on Brass Tacks. Thank you for your inputs and your thoughts. Thank you.